So people come here in the back of a lorry or on a boat across the channel as an asylum seeker, and being softies, we say, yeah, okay, all right, you can stay. Now, over 50 people a day come into Britain because they say, oh, my uncle's there, my nan's there, my little kid's there. And so what's really happening is we let people across the channel. It isn't just them that come. Ultimately, their whole families come as well. We must be absolutely mad. In America, what Donald Trump is doing already is deporting people who've come into America illegally. And far from being the monster, now over 50% of Britons think Trump is doing the right thing. Let me promise you something. The only political party that is serious about stopping illegal immigration, about deporting those who come here illegally, is us at Reform UK. It's just won an election for Trump in America. We may be a different country. The principles are exactly the same. If you think, as I do, that the whole thing's an outrage, please support us. Please join us. Please vote for us.
Last weekend, Donald Trump made headlines as he began fulfilling his campaign promises on immigration, a central theme of his victorious presidential run. In a bold move, the former president orchestrated the deportation of migrants to Colombia, forcing the Bogotá government into compliance after initially refusing to accept the flights. This dramatic showdown may serve as a preview of Trump's hardline immigration stance in his second term, leaving many wondering if similar tactics could work across the Atlantic. The flights to Colombia marked the beginning of Trump's pledge to crack down on illegal immigration, a policy he touted during his campaign. With an estimated 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States, Trump has vowed mass deportations to reassert control over the country's borders. His recent appointment of Tom Homan as border czar underscores the seriousness of his agenda. Homan, a veteran of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, under Trump's first presidency, gained notoriety for implementing the controversial zero-tolerance policy, which separated nearly 4,700 children from their parents at the southern border. While critics decried the policy as inhumane, Homan continues to defend it, insisting on the necessity of deterrence to combat illegal crossings. Trump's approach to immigration will undoubtedly be closely monitored by policymakers around the world, including in the United Kingdom. Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK, has already called on Britain to emulate Trump's tactics. Farage suggested withholding foreign aid from countries that refuse to accept deported migrants, labeling them rapists and criminals in his characteristic combative style. The UK, too, faces challenges with illegal immigration, with thousands crossing the English Channel each year in small boats. Farage's remarks stand in stark contrast to the strategy of Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who scrapped the controversial Rwanda deportation scheme shortly after taking office. The scheme, proposed by the previous Conservative government, aimed to send those arriving illegally to Rwanda for processing. Proponents argued it would act as a deterrent to future crossing, but critics slammed it as both unethical and ineffective. Starmer dismissed the policy as a costly failure, plagued by legal challenges that drained public funds without delivering results. Instead, Labour's approach focuses on dismantling the criminal networks behind the small boat crossing. Starmer has promised to smash the gangs, but critics argue this strategy lacks the deterrent effect needed to stem the flow of migrants. Meanwhile, the Channel crossings continue, leaving many questioning whether the government has a viable plan to address the issue. While the UK's challenges differ from those of the United States, Trump's unapologetic stance on immigration has sparked debate over whether a similarly tough approach could work in Britain. Advocates of stricter policies argue that the UK must adopt deterrence measures, even if they provoke international criticism. Others warn that mimicking Trump's approach could backfire, deepening divisions and undermining the UK's global standing. As the immigration debate rages on both sides of the Atlantic, one thing is clear: all eyes will be on Washington in the coming years. Whether Trump's methods prove effective or divisive, his actions will undoubtedly influence how other nations tackle the complex issue of migration. For the UK, The question remains whether to follow Trump's lead or forge its own path in addressing this persistent challenge.
Locals in Northamptonshire have apparently raised concerns. There's been groups of asylum seekers apparently loitering outside of a primary school there, but not just loitering, apparently filming and taking pictures of the pupils. The police have got involved and said that this is essentially some kind of cultural issue, and that they've spoken to these people and asked them to adhere to cultural expectations and appropriate behaviours. I find it very odd that a group of grown men, whoever they are, whatever the culture they're from, actually need the police to point out to them that it's not culturally acceptable to be loitering around groups of very young children. But anyway, Rupert, your thoughts?
Well, Michelle, I think this is a disgrace. It's not just Northampton. I saw a letter from a school teacher in Altrincham. I think it's happening wherever you've got these, whatever you want to call them, asylum seekers, economic migrants, I call them. They're here illegally. They shouldn't be here. They should be detained and deported. If they want to come here legally, they should apply legally to come. But I wrote to the Home Secretary actually on Sunday about this, and I've raised it as an issue for her to consider. I mean, when you think that Iran has recently reduced the age of consent to 9, I think this is a...
In Northamptonshire, tensions are rising among residents as concerns mount over the presence of asylum seekers in close proximity to a primary school. This issue has ignited a debate about child safety and the need for a more robust approach to Britain's immigration policies, particularly concerning illegal asylum seekers and economic migrants. For weeks, parents and local authorities have voiced unease about the housing of asylum seekers in a facility near a school, arguing that the placement lacks thorough consideration of its impact on community safety. While the majority of asylum seekers abide by the law and seek refuge for legitimate reasons, the lack of stringent vetting processes has raised questions about safeguarding measures, particularly where young children are involved. The current state of Britain's immigration system has been under scrutiny for years. Critics argue that the country's approach is both inefficient and lenient, allowing loopholes that encourage illegal entry. Economic migrants, who travel primarily for financial opportunities rather than fleeing persecution, are often lumped together with genuine asylum seekers, further complicating the process. In response to growing public concerns, some political leaders and campaigners have called for more decisive action. Proposals include mandatory detention and expedited deportation for those who enter the country illegally. Such measures, proponents argue, would deter economic migrants from exploiting the asylum system and help restore public confidence. The debate around asylum seekers often pits compassion against the need for control. Human rights advocates stress the importance of providing refuge to those escaping war, persecution, or dire circumstances. However, critics contend that unchecked migration, particularly illegal entry, can strain public services, disrupt social cohesion, and, in cases like the one in Northamptonshire, raise valid safety concerns. The situation in Northamptonshire underscores the broader challenges facing Britain's immigration framework. Balancing the nation's humanitarian obligations with the need to uphold public safety and cultural expectations is no small feat. However, failing to act decisively risks exacerbating public discontent and further straining community relations. As the government reviews its policies, it must prioritize transparency and communication with local communities. Only through meaningful reforms and a commitment to safeguarding all residents can Britain navigate these contentious waters effectively. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing content. Join the conversation on our Telegram community. The link is in the description.